Hey everybody, and today we're going to look at the SN30 line of controllers from 8BitDo. And this includes the SN30, the SN30 Pro, and the SN30 Pro Plus. Now, while these controllers will also work on the PC, Android, Raspberry Pi, and the Mac OS, I'm mostly going to be talking about them in context of working on the Nintendo Switch. Now, these controllers have been discussed quite a bit on YouTube and individual reviews, so this video is going to be more about a comparison between them to help you pick purchase, instead of going in depth on their individual features and having play testing. But to summarize the quality of accuracy and everything, I'm just going to say that all three of these do have accurate inputs. They're fairly minimal lag for a Bluetooth controller, and the quality of materials are all pretty similar to what you'd find in an original SNES controller, so there's no worries there. Now, all three of them, they have excellent D-pads for the single cross design. I will say that none of them have a overly pronounced center pivot or anything. That's pretty small. I know that can be kind of a gripe for some people, but rest assured, as long as your inputs are clean, the D-pad is going to respond as it's supposed to. So with that being said, which of these should you buy? So let's go ahead and start with the SN30. Get my little stand here. Alright, so simply put, this is pretty much identical to an SNES controller. So if you're one of the many that have been unable to order, the SNES wireless pads from the Switch Online membership, these might be tempting, but please note, these are not a one-for-one replacement. And there's two differences mainly that I want to kind of go over. One of them is minor and one of them is kind of a bigger deal. So one difference is that the Switch Online controllers, the first-party ones, they do have a USB-C port, while this one is a micro USB. The more important difference, though, is that with the first-party controllers, they actually have little ZL and ZR buttons up here, while this 8BitDo pad does not. It's more like just a legit SNES controller. So, big problem with that is if you've used the NES or SNES Online apps with all the different games to play, those buttons are actually needed to enter the menu during gameplay. So without that menu, once you've started a game, not only can you not switch games without having to restart the app altogether and pick a different game, but you also have no way to access save states. So that's a pretty big feature to miss that most people appreciate having. So while I will say this pad is a great value for, playing 2D side-scrollers like Mario Maker levels or maybe Shovel Knight, it's not really the best way to get the most out of the NES and SNES online apps. So let's go ahead and take a look at the SN30 Pro. And this one is a lot more like a Pro controller pretty much. This and the Pro Plus, they have USB-C ports, and they also have the ZL and ZR buttons. On here, they're just labeled L2 and R2, but that's what they function, ZL and R right here. So this ends up being a better replacement, for those Switch Online controllers, for those apps. You also have rumble and motion controls. So games like Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 2 can be played with these. But I do have two criticisms on these, though. So one is the thumbstick placement. Now, as opposed to having them a bit more separated from the main body like you would find on a PS4 controller, they take up the bottom third of this pad, and it shoves everything up slightly higher than it usually would be. So you can kind of see here, see how the D-pad is a little bit higher. And same with the buttons. You can kind of see, hopefully you can see there, they're a lot more centered on the retro pad as opposed to this Plus one, or the Pro one rather. They're all a little bit higher. So not only is that a little bit awkward, but pretty much just be prepared for your thumbs to almost always be hitting this thumbstick. So this isn't a big factor in every game, but it will be a factor in, platformers and things where your thumb is primarily going to be on these face buttons. Your thumbstick wouldn't usually be used, but just know that it's always going to be resting up against there for the most part. Another criticism I had was around the triggers. So instead of just making this wider, they pretty much, trying to get this in focus here, they pretty much just cut these triggers in half. So this little thin sliver, that's the R button. So this gets a little bit annoying in games like, say, Mega Man X, where I'll have my dash mapped up there. So instead of having this big button that I would usually hit, I have to now pay attention more to have my finger on this little sliver as opposed to this nice big trigger. And, in that game, since it's an SNES game, it doesn't recognize, ZR, ZL, or whatever, so I can't choose these even map it to, so I'm just kind of stuck with this little sliver. So those are two button layout issues that, I've never personally liked about this particular Pro controller. So now, let's take a look at the Pro Plus. All right, so 3 major differences with the Pro Plus. 1, LNR are back to normal size. And then these L2, R2 triggers, they're a lot more like something you would find on the DualShock, so those are bigger too. You can just kind of tell they made that whole side a bit wider to accommodate for everything. Another big difference is the grips. So grips just make it much more comfortable for long game sessions, and it's really good for like larger hands in particular. It's a little bit bigger than like a DualShock controller, but you can also see because of these grips, even though you have the thumbstick still here at the bottom like you would with the Pro, having these grips actually kind of sets my thumb off to the side a bit more, so I don't really run into it a whole lot. The other big difference is going to be that this one actually has a lot of customization features. There's actually some software that you can get on the computer from the 8BitDo support website, and it includes button mapping, setting the sensitivity of your joysticks, your triggers, and your rumble. And it even has basic macros. Now, I don't have much experience with that customization software, but, that's a big feature that this has that isn't even present on the Pro. So now with that comparison out of the way, which would I buy? So I would say that for the cheapest way to play 2D games, and for those of you that don't mind missing features with the Switch NES and SNES apps, you should go for the basic SN30. So, they're amazing replicas of an SNES controller, MSRP of $29.99, and are often on Amazon for $5 to $10 less with different lightning deals. Now, with the SN30 Pro, unless you just really need a Pro controller with the functionality and an SNES shell, I really can't recommend this controller anymore over the Pro Plus at the MSRP because, these are $44.99, and, just a couple years ago before the Pro Plus came out, this was considered to pretty much be the best quality Pro controller replacement for the price. But now that we got the Pro Plus this year, and that's only $5 more at $49.99, it's better in almost every way and allows for more customization. So on top of that, the Pro Plus has been seeing lightning deals more often than this Pro. I bought the Pro Plus for $42.50 during a lightning deal. So my advice, if you're willing to spend over $40 anyway, just spring for the Pro Plus. This is one of the nicest third-party controllers for general use controllers I've ever used, and the build quality, it's really on par with many different first-party controllers, so I just consider it a really great buy. So, all right, so I've got a bonus comparison here. Pro controller time. So, is the Pro Plus a true replacement for the Switch Pro controller? And I would say that's all about the preference and the layout. So, let's get a couple other controllers up here. All right, so we got the PS4 controller, DualShock 4, and the Xbox controller. So you can see these controllers definitely took some influence from, these counterparts over here. So, which one's better? It's really up to, what your preferred format is. Do you prefer having the lower set dual analogs in a row, or do you prefer having them offset? Likewise, do you want the D-pad to take the front and center attention, or do you want that to be primarily with the analog? So I really wouldn't say there's a clear answer for which one's better or worse. They're both excellent controllers, and really each of them have their own trade-offs. The 8BitDo, it only has standard rumble, and it doesn't have NFC for Amiibo, while the Switch Pro does have HD rumble and NFC, but it has a worse D-pad, and it's also $20 more. So I would just suggest buying whichever layout you prefer, and also kind of just based on how heavy your D-pad use is. But you're going to be happy either way, regardless of which one you end up getting. So anyway, that concludes our overview of the SN30 line of controllers. So feel free to share your thoughts about these controllers in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.